Welcome back to the Den of Nerds. I'm Josh, and we better talk about that ending to the latest Daredevil Born Again episode. That was insane, and of course I want to explain this ending because it's not what you think. Basically, that's not the Punisher, and I want to explain what's going on. So in this video, we'll go over three different things. I want to talk about the ending, explain why I don't think that's Punisher. Then I need to talk about the character of Cole North from Marvel Comics, and some leaks because we kind of know for sure that he's going to be in the show unless they cut it out with the new version. And then finally, I want to talk about how Frank Castle actually fits into this and what the future of that character is going to look like with his new special coming up. Okay, so of course, episode 3, Daredevil Born Again, we have the court case episode. I actually thought it was pretty good. A lot of tension building, clever writing, parallels between Fisk and Matt. But essentially, the episode takes a turn when Matt is forced to reveal the identity of Hector as the White Tiger. And this is done after their star witness that was supposed to flip on the cops ends up being dirty and screwing them over. And so Matt reveals that Hector is the White Tiger, and that does lead to them winning the case because a lot of cops had filed reports about how they liked the White Tiger or the White Tiger had helped them out in various situations. And so Hector is acquitted of all charges, gets to walk free, everything's great. And at the very end of the episode with those frogs singing in the background, he gets capped in the fucking head. And I was reminded of how Matt told him in the early part of the episode that Hector would see those beaches on Puerto Rico again.
So that was a fucking lie.
But anyway, Hector is killed right at the end of the episode. And then the person that kills him walks towards the camera and they got a Punisher logo on. So everybody was like, oh my God, is that Frank Castle? Is that the Punisher? And strangely enough, there were some IMDb leaks that made it seem like the Punisher was actually credited for episode 3. Now we kind of think that's shenanigans to make you think that this is Frank Castle? Because even if you didn't know any of the leaks or the rumors about the show, you would probably think that can't really be Frank. Like, why would the Punisher kill White Tiger? That doesn't make any sense. And then, of course, in the show itself, you see the dirty cops have the Punisher logo. Now, the thing is, this does tie to old leaks and rumors about the show, which indicated that there would be a bunch of cops using the Punisher logo, and they would be doing some really nasty stuff. And that was eventually going to lead to Frank Castle coming into the story of Daredevil Born Again to try to seek vengeance and to try to stop these cops from representing him. And so that is basically why we don't think that is the actual Punisher. There's like hints within the actual story, and then there are big time rumors that that's not going to be the Punisher. But it gets even crazier, guys, because now let's talk about Cole North. So I want to show you this. This is a leaked image of Jeremy Earl as Officer Cole North on the set of Born Again. If you notice, he has a patch on his side that says Anti-Vigilante Task Force. And he's also wearing the Punisher thing, like that's obvious too, right? So that could be the character that just killed Hector, but I don't think it's Cole North that just killed the White Tiger. So this is going to get kind of nerdy. I have to explain what this is in comic books, but essentially the character of Cole North in comics is a detective that is very anti-vigilante, anti-mask. He doesn't like that superhero stuff at all. He finds himself at odds with Daredevil quite often in the comic books, but he's not a bad guy. He's not the type of person that would go out and kill the White Tiger and cap them in the street. I think it's more likely the case that Cole North will be in charge of the anti-vigilante task force, and he will be trying to stop vigilantes. But there will also be other officers that are wearing the Punisher stuff. They're anti-vigilante as well. They're going to be doing crazy stuff like killing people like Hector. And so I would imagine we're going to get a really complicated, tense relationship between Cole North, the Punisher, and Daredevil, and Wilson Fisk. I'm really interested in why they all wear the Punisher logo. Like, the cops have it all tattooed, and I understand maybe they just appreciate Punisher or something. But for Cole North himself to have the Punisher logo on his officer's uniform is really weird. I don't understand it. Is that something Fisk wants to do? Is there some other machination or plan going on here to get Frank Castle's attention, to maybe get him to come back and be crazy so that then, therefore, he's justified in removing all of the vigilantes? There could be some 6D chess at play here. Okay, so now you know why we don't think that was Frank Castle at the end of episode 3, and I showed you Cole North and explained a little bit about him, and I don't think he's the one that killed Hector either, but somebody on the vigilante task force is the person that killed Hector. And I would imagine that eventually gets revealed, and it's going to be really interesting to see how all these pieces fit together, right? But now let's talk about actual Frank Castle. What's the deal with Frank? Well, Frank is obviously going to be in the show. We've seen set footage and even footage in the trailer of Frank Castle and Daredevil having an interaction. And I think Daredevil is going to seek Frank out for his help in combating this anti-vigilante task force. Maybe Matt still doesn't quite want to be Daredevil, but he's at least going to try to get somebody like Punisher aware of what's going on to try to combat against this in some way. I mean, I think the show is very obviously setting Matt up for the scenario where the law is failing him. There's not justice happening through the Justice Department, likely because Fisk is involved and it's just so corrupt. And so Matt's being dragged back into being the vigilante, to being Daredevil and taking justice out like that. But I still think he's not quite there. So he's probably going to get Frank and get Frank to be involved, and he's just going to feel himself being pushed and dragged into it more and more and more. It's probably Muse and the character of Muse that eventually gets Matt to actually become Daredevil again, which is a whole thing. I mean, Muse is so dark and twisted. And in the comic books, Muse does so much crazy stuff that actually forces Wilson Fisk and Matt Murdock to work together. And we also know from some of the interviews of the people that made the show that there's incredibly twisted stuff in this show, stuff that Charlie Cox described as literally hard to watch, which is absolutely wild. We assume some of that stuff is going to be coming. That's going to be the stuff that probably breaks Matt. Maybe it's even connected to his new girlfriend, which would be really messed up. For now, I sort of see Matt as still being reserved, and I think he's going to go to Frank Castle to get Frank Castle to help him out in this situation, because at this point in the story, Matt is still completely done being Daredevil. He has shut that off completely. He is not going to do it. That's just a guess. So I don't know how involved Frank will be in the rest of the show. I think it'll probably be something to wrap up this plot line with these anti-vigilante people, and maybe you'll get some cool action with Frank. Like, I certainly hope so. But I don't think it's the main focus of the show from the midpoint on. Like, the Muse stuff really does seem to be the big focus of how this is going to end. So I wouldn't expect a ton of Punisher, but they're certainly using Punisher in an interesting way here. And the Cold North aspect is wild. Like, I'm really curious as to how all of that's going to fit together. But we know that Frank Castle is getting a special. He's getting one of these special presentations, kind of like a mini movie that's going to be set on Disney+. And according to some stuff that John Bernthal has said, he's co-writing that thing, and it is going to be dark and violent as hell. It is not going to be a watered down Frank Castle in any way, shape, or form. And I certainly think it's possible that whatever happens to Frank in Born Again over these next few episodes will impact where his journey goes within that special presentation. And so it's like you're going to get a little tease, a little taste of the Punisher, and hopefully he does some really cool stuff in this show, because Dario Scartapan was the showrunner of the old Punisher stuff, and he's the new showrunner of Daredevil Born Again. So you'd think he would really show up for his boy and give Punisher some dope shit for us to watch. Like, that's what I think is going to happen. So I would expect you get a lot more Punisher in that special presentation, which is said to release next year around the release of season 2 of Daredevil Born Again. And maybe we get more Frank in season 2 of Born Again as well. That would be great. But there you go, guys. Just want to explain that ending. It's not what you think. Punisher is coming, but that wasn't him. There's an anti-vigilante task force, character of Cold North coming in. I'm really intrigued in how all of that fits together. Let me know your thoughts about this in the comment section below. And as I always say, I hope you are having an awesome and a nerdy day, and I'll see you in the next video.